All right, should be live. I think it's live. Let me just refresh here. So Twitch doesn't say I'm live, but Streamlabs do. Oh well, let's just assume it's live. So, hello. I don't have too much time today, or at least not right now. I figured I would spend maybe an hour on some code. Basically, what we did yesterday was cleaning up all our queries and mutations to make use of the new resolver pipe utility, as well as implement BlitzGuard for some of the mutations that I hadn't secured with the authentication. So that is all done now, but I tried to push and yeah, we have some issues. Primarily it's just like small things, but I figured there's quite a few of them, might as well do that here. So yeah, let's just take these one at a time and let's get some work done. I'm most likely going to be streaming later tonight. If that will be programming or gameplay, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I also realized yesterday that I streamed for about a total of 3 hours, and I ended up not having my microphone on for the entire time. So it turns out that Streamlabs had updated, and in doing so they had messed up a lot of my settings. I don't know how or why, but my microphone being one of them, and I didn't realize until after the stream had ended. So that I feel a bit silly about that, but lesson learned, it's fixed now. So let's just get started with this. So we need to open up the login mutation, and we have an issue in here with a role. We can't import because role is not exported, but it should be though. Role comes from DB, and we're importing from type, so that's the issue. So here we just need to roll, load it from there, and this will be just fine. All right, that's one down. Same thing for sign up. Get rid of that. Put roll from there, and then this should clear as well. Perfect. 2 down. Okay, create category modal. This one I've not worked on for a long time. A month, I think, actually. So started working on it 2 months ago. Yeah, so 3 weeks was last time I touched it, basically. But as discussed yesterday during the stream, I'm just gonna move this panel to the right. It might be blocked by my face on the stream. I'm not entirely sure. At least the lower part will be, but I'll try and remember to scroll. Anyway, as I mentioned during the stream last night, I'm thinking I might need to rewrite the way that I'm dealing with the categories. And I just realized again my microphone didn't work. So even if you were watching the stream, you wouldn't know this because you couldn't hear me. But basically, what I was saying was the way that the categories work right now is as you can see for skins, for example. This AK-47 is under the rifles category, as you can see here on the side. I can't hover because it goes away, but you can see it says rifles, and on the other summation it says pistols. So that's the main category. And then the subcategory would be AK-47 in this case, or USP, I believe in this case, or whatever other pistol that might be. Which works for skins, but for maps it doesn't make as much sense. So in this case, you can see that it's the case for all of them. The main category here is diffuse, and then alternatively it would be hostage rescue or something. And then I have the colon, and then again bomb/diffuse, which is the subcategory, which just like with the skins, like for the skins it makes sense, but here it doesn't. Hello, Grali. Nice to see you. So for the categories, for skins it makes sense, but for maps it doesn't necessarily, because it's either a diffuse map, in which case it will always be bomb diffusal, or for hostage rescue it's always going to be hostage rescue. For like a surf map, it's going to be surf. For deathmatch, it's going to be deathmatch. So for maps it doesn't make as much sense as it does for skins. So I think I might need to, in the end, rework the way that categories are working, but I'm not quite there yet. I still need to think about how I want to do that. Is it possible to do dynamic theming with Tailwind CSS? Yes, it totally is. And I'm planning on doing a video on this. I'm probably going to be recording that either tonight or tomorrow. But it's totally possible. I realized there's a very simple way of doing it using Css Variables, which is what I'm using here. So right now this settings button is just toggling the theme. It's not doing anything fancy, but it's toggling the theme. However, normally in doing so, you would change all the class names throughout your entire application by swapping them to a different theme, which works, but if you have a lot of DOM elements, it could be slow. So what I'm doing instead is I'm just changing the actual colors within the Tailwind theme. Let me show you. It might be a bit easier to explain, but it's definitely possible. So if we go into my Tailwind config, you can see here I've defined a few colors here. I'm currently loading a bunch of Tailwind colors. I'm going to be replacing those, so ignore that. But I do have some colors here where I'm getting the opacity variable and then just passing it into an RGBA. So in here, I have another variable for the color itself, and then a variable for the opacity. And if we check out my index CSS, this could probably be cleaned up a little bit. But I'm just defining the actual color on the variables here, and then using those, which allows me to very easily toggle the color that I need. So instead of replacing, like, let's say text gray, if for the links here, it's text blue, for example. If I wanted a theme that changes all the blue links to pink, I would go in and change all the class names from text blue to text pink or whatever, which it's not great. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time to do. And as you add more themes, you need to go through and do that for all of them, which is not great. And the approach I've done here just changes one class on the body, and that's it. It takes care of all the rest through the variables, which I think personally is a super cool way of dealing with it. I've been experimenting with that for a while, and I couldn't get it to work until I realized that you actually get the opacity variable directly here, which solves this issue. Because before I was passing in, like I believe it's called like Tailwind opacity or something, and that didn't work because the variable wasn't available. Turns out that Tailwind is smart enough to not include that variable if you don't pass this. So you need to pass this in order to get that opacity variable, otherwise the opacity classes won't work, which for most cases you probably won't need, but it's nice to have, so you don't lose any possibilities. If you need opacity, you have it. So I think that's a pretty cool system. And also, because of the way I'm doing it here, it would allow me to say, pretty much like Slack does it. Like you can pass specific colors in an array or something, and then I could just map those directly to the variables, and that way the user could customize the UI to have the colors they want. That's one of the ideas I'm having at the very least, because this would allow for that. So I think that's super cool and really valuable, and I'm super happy to find a method that works for that. Oh, thank you for the follow. So I think that's super cool. I'm definitely going to be expanding upon this. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a dedicated video for that and dropping it on YouTube, just because I think it's super cool, and I want to really discuss, how you can utilize this. So yeah. So short answer, yes, you can definitely do theming with Tailwind. Again, there's other ways of doing it, but I think this is definitely the most powerful. Yeah, so my YouTube channel, if I can actually type here, I believe I'm not sure if it's in my Yeah, so if you just search for my name, Kevin Österkühle, you'll find it. I believe there's a link dedicated for it as well. I honestly don't remember, but I think... Oh yeah, there you go. Let me just drop that in here. And just check that works. Yeah, it works. There you go. That's the YouTube channel. It's primarily, like, most of it is really old content. It's primarily video game related from when I used to be a 3D artist. But I'm planning on taking it in a new direction for more programming related videos. So yeah, I'll be dropping a video on there probably not tonight because I'll be recording it tonight, but maybe tomorrow or sometime later this week for sure. So yeah, again, theming, totally possible. I'll be covering a few different ways of doing it, but I think this is definitely the smartest way to do it. I haven't found any downsides yet, I might say. There might be some, but I haven't encountered any. So yeah, for context as well, in case you weren't here at the beginning, what I'm doing right now is I made a bunch of changes on stream yesterday. The microphone wasn't on, so I'm going to be covering a lot of the same topics I talked about, because you couldn't hear what I was saying anyway. I don't think you were here anyway, so it doesn't matter, but still. I did a bunch of changes, and in doing so, I broke a bunch of things, meaning I can't push because my git commit hook is preventing me from doing so. It's kind of a safeguard for myself not to push broken stuff. But when you're quickly developing stuff, it can be quite tedious. So what I'm doing during this stream, I have a cup of coffee. When I'm finished with that, I'm going to stop the stream. So it's not going to be a long one. I might do a longer one later. But I'm just going to be fixing all these issues during the stream. So it's going to be a super boring one potentially, because it's mostly just going to be types. But who knows? You might learn a thing or two. So this one here, again, like I said before we started talking about themes, I have not touched this file for 3 weeks, I believe. 3 weeks, 2 months, somewhere in between there, depending on which part of the code you're using. Are you using Relay? No, I'm not using Relay. So I'm not using GraphQL at all on this project right now. The project is built using Blitz.js, which is a full stack framework built on top of Next.js. So it allows you to build a bunch of like queries and mutations directly on the server, which is a bit nice of an experience. But I'm not using GraphQL. I'm using GraphQL for some other projects, but not for this one, where I am using Relay, I might add. But here I've not done that yet. I might implement a GraphQL API, which would be using Relay in that case, if I decide to go the route of building a public API. But for now, it's all internal. I don't have a public API because I'm still working on this entire thing. As you can see here, it's obviously not done. Did I just hit Command Q? I did. Yeah, okay. And my laptop is suddenly very slow. Blitz, does it support WebSockets? It can. I want to say the answer is. So I've not looked into it too deeply. I've read a few articles, and it should be able to. So I feel really bad because I don't actually have an correct answer. I know you can do WebSockets, but I also know that there are some limitations. I don't remember if Blitz, or rather if Prisma, which is the data layer, or part of the data layer, the ORM basically, that Blitz is using, is the bottleneck, but there are some issues with it from what I've understood. You like the UI, thank you. I'm happy to hear that. I built the UI myself. I built all the components, again, using Tailwind. I did use some Tailwind UI stuff in the beginning. I've slowly started to phase those out in favor of my own components. But yeah, I built it myself. it's not the best UI in the world. I recently changed it. It used to look a bit different, at least the layout part, until I realized that it wouldn't scale very well. Right now I'm only having sections for skins and maps, and I want to have more in the future, and the previous layout wouldn't support that. So this new one will, I think. But yeah. Yeah, I'm having frame drops too. My laptop is very slow right now. I don't know what happened. I think it's because I accidentally closed VS Code and it's having issues reloading everything. I'm just gonna post into the chat just in case. Yeah, I mean, even there, I messed up a space in that pretty much because of the frame drops. My laptop is really slow. So I'm streaming off of a MacBook Pro, which could potentially explain the issue, especially considering that I've got a very wide monitor. You're only seeing half of it, but my monitor is twice the size of what you're seeing on screen. So that could also potentially explain the frame drop. I need to find a better way of making that work. But yeah, like I was saying, I'm not using GraphQL, but in the end, I might end up doing that. And the UI, if the thing would compile so I can show it again, is far from being perfect. It's far from being done. I have a lot of plans with it, but for the time being, while I'm working on this, it'll do. No need to spend too much time working on refining the UI if the core functionality is naturally in place. At least that's my experience. Because you end up in situations where with this create category model, where my types won't actually fit anyway, and I'll probably need to redo stuff in here because I realize the way my categories work don't make sense. So I'm just creating more work for myself if I spend too long on refining the UI for that. Oh, you can only hear my voice. Okay, let me just quickly check Streamlabs here. Right, yeah, okay, so my display capture stopped actually capturing. Again, because I closed the window. Why are you not picking back up? Okay, so if we... Ah, there you go. Okay, so it was capturing the wrong window somehow. Is it working now for you? I'm seeing the preview now, at least, unlike before. So I think it's fixed, but just confirm. That would be great. And it's compiled. Maybe we should be able to see something. No? It's still compiling. Okay, yeah, my laptop is being really slow, and I think the issue is that I closed VS Code. I have a bunch of windows open there, which I should probably have cleaned up beforehand. So I think it's just taking a bit of a toll on the machine. That's unfortunate. That's not a lot of fun. I think potentially what I can do to help with these kind of issues in the long term would be to buy an eGPU and hook up my 3080 through that, potentially, or perhaps even my old 1080 should justify. Should suffice. I mean, at the very least, that would take off some of the bandwidth from my laptop. But yeah, if you're still here, can you tell me if the screen is working now? By the way, I mean, there's not much point in me showing code if you can't see the code. So I just want to clarify that. I'm just gonna post as well, just in case. Right. While we're figuring that out, I'm just gonna continue with what I was doing. Like I said, you're not honestly missing much because I'm just fixing issues, so I can actually push my changes. Most of this is going to be type issues, but we need them fixed. There we go. So I need to, so we have 27 errors left. That should be fairly straightforward to do. So in this case here, for the create category model, it appears to be data does not exist, but we're not passing data. So it could be the type, I think, that's being passed incorrectly. Because we're passing the game, which we get the ID from. We're passing, and then otherwise open the modal to create the game. I need to rework that flow as well. It doesn't make sense to have multiple modals. That's a bit funky. And it doesn't work as expected anyway. So I need to find another way of dealing with that. But we okay, it's working. Okay, thank you. That's excellent. So we're passing the game here. We're passing the type, the name, and description. And here we're passing name. So game, type, name, and we're not passing description. We get that from values. There's no point in doing anything there. Game, we'll connect game with the ID, which it might actually complain about because it might want game ID instead. So let's see, that's this one. So if we comment that out, game ID, number game. And you're still complaining. Why would that be? I'm thinking section, because we're not actually passing section. Ah, we are. We're passing it from up here. If we hard code that, would that do anything? No. So what is the actual issue here? Data any, but we're not passing data. Where are you getting that from though? Oh, we're passing. Okay, right. Okay, I know what the issue is. The issue is not this. The issue is that we changed the mutation, so we don't actually need this. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so for context, what we did is we went through and we swapped out all our previous mutations to use this new resolver pipe, as well as authenticate them through BlitzGuard. And in doing so, we swapped around how some of this is being mapped, just to make it a bit easier. So that is going to cause some issues throughout the code. And here it was thankfully a very easy fix. So that's one file done. So now it's create game modal, which is most likely going to be the same issue. So here we're passing again through data. We just pass values directly, which is not good enough for this one. Why is that? Potentially because we don't need this, I'm guessing. Yeah, there you go, fixed. All right, that's another one. So map ID. So that's the page for the individual maps. So that will be looking like Come on, open. So this page, that's the map page, which has ratings. As I said last night during my previous stream, which again, my microphone was muted, you didn't hear anything, so I was just talking to the void. I am probably going to be revamping that part. So instead of allowing arbitrary comments, which in this case there are none of, right now you can just comment whatever you want on whatever submission you want. And while that works in that you get to have a conversation and you get to talk to the author of a submission, I don't think this is the right place to do it. Instead, I want to kind of not force people to use the forum, but have the forum be the place to make these discussions, and then keep the submission about the submission itself. So I'm probably going to be going the same route that Steam did with their games pages, in that you can't comment arbitrarily. You need to submit a review with a comment. So without mentioning names, but I used to be a part of a forum or a website or whatever you want to call it, a community basically, for game modding like 10 years ago. And in the end, on that site they allowed arbitrary comments on submissions, but it just ended up being a lot of clutter and a lot of random comments that made no sense. They had no context to the submission. It was just people having conversations or mentioning whenever they had an issue, which should be in a dedicated like issues thread or something. So in order to combat that, they implemented what they called exemplary feedback or exemplary posts, where if a comment had really high quality and was like being very direct in criticizing or providing feedback to the submission in a very detailed manner, they would get this stamp of approval from the moderators saying this is a good post, and then that would be an incentive to post more relevant feedback. But I think instead of doing that, I'm just going to be changing it from comments to reviews, and then assign a score directed to a comment. And you can only do that once per submission. If you want to have a deeper conversation with the author, perhaps you would send them a direct message or post on their profile or open a thread on the forum. So that will change as well eventually, but for now it's just going to stay like it is. But that will change before I release the site for sure. Okay, what was the issue in here? The issue was user ID. So we have session user ID is being passed somewhere. I'm passing it down here, and the problem is it can be null, but in this case it won't be. So here we should actually just hide this entire thing if you're not logged in, because there's no point in being able to report content or favorite content or rate content if you're not logged in. Let's see, where does this stop? It stops here. So what we're going to be doing is just wrap this entire thing like so, and we say if you have a session user ID, you continue with this entire thing. User ID can be null, otherwise return null. And now we know that session user ID is available and it is a number. Yeah, type-safe APIs are so addictive for sure. So we still have an issue that it still says it can be null, so we just need to wrap this in number, I believe. So the types we have here are not perfect by any means, but they do get the job done. Why are you still complaining? But you shouldn't be able to be null now. Okay, let's do this actually. Same thing. No, you're still complaining? Yeah. So TypeScript is definitely a lifesaver. I will admit, sometimes, especially when you're working with third-party APIs, some of the error messages can be like really unreadable. It's gotten better, of course. But I mean, in this case, the error is quite clear. Like, I know what the issue is. Why? It's because it's null, not undefined. Okay, let's just... I don't like doing this. This is really bad, but in this case, it should fix the issue. What was I saying? Yeah, so TypeScript is definitely a lifesaver. It took a while to get started with it, to be honest, but after having used it, whenever I go to a plain JavaScript project, I just can't do it. Okay, let me restart the TypeScript server because I don't think it's picking this up. Like I'm shooting myself in the foot every time I try and do anything that is not using TypeScript. It's so beautiful. I love working with it. So for building applications like this, TypeScript is a no-brainer. Like, there's no point in not doing it, because it helps you ensure that what you're writing is actually going to work and you're not going to break anything. The only issue I'm having with TypeScript is, it's not really an issue, it's more myself, let's be honest, is whenever I need to write client libraries, say, I have another side project I'm working on a little bit, which is going to be a commercial product. And for that, I want to have a client library that the client can install in order to access the data that they create on my platform through an API key and such. And I'll admit, as any, yeah. Oh, for sure. I used to do that a lot, but I've kind of stopped. Okay, so S number works. Which makes me wonder if my previous thing worked and this server just didn't pick it up. Let's give this a moment. Because I'd much rather do this, because I have the check here saying like user ID has to be available. So I think this would work. But no. Okay, let's just S number. Fuck it. But as I was saying, so building client libraries, those can be a bit more tricky because they rely a lot on generics. And while generics are not that complex to get your head around, it can get complex when you don't know what the API might return based on a bunch of different variables. It can get a bit messy easily. But for building like plain websites or an application like this, I think it's perfectly fine. Like, it works as intended. Let's just S number again because lazy. And that was the only issue we had in this file. Awesome. Okay. Edit. And it's in here. And I believe the same issue we have here is again where. Where does not exist. And again, that's because we changed the mutation. So now we can just pass ID. We already know that's all we're going to be looking at. Right. It might not actually be an object anymore. I don't remember. Where are you? Delete map. Come on. Yeah, it's not an object. So okay, so there's clearly an issue here with my TypeScript server not updating. I think again it's related to the me accidentally closing VS Code earlier and streaming as well. It's just too much to handle. So sorry about that. Might have to restart the server a few times while doing this. Yeah. So I work for a company called Algolia, and we do have quite a few API clients. I did attempt taking a look at those to see if I could figure out what the issue was or how to better build my clients, but those clients are super complex. No way, that did not save me at all. I ended up writing the entire thing myself anyway. Which, I mean, it works, but I'm sure there's better way of dealing with it. Like, why are you complaining though? This should be correct, no? Ah, come on. Yeah, everything is slow. Come on. It won't even open the damn mutation now. Delete map. Yeah, we just passed the ID. So what we're doing is correct. Oh. Why can you not pass? Ah, because of the undefined. Okay. But it can't be undefined here because it will always be available. I mean, you can't access this page unless you pass the parameter. And actually, this entire thing we can get rid of. And this as well, I believe. Because I wrote custom hooks that take care of this. So I have a custom hook where we can go map ID and then use map ID. And then we don't have to do this part. And I have a similar hook for map, which I believe includes set query data. I'm not sure, which could explain why I'm not using it here, but I know for skin, for example. No, wait, we're on the edit page, which could cause it, because I don't think I updated those. So if we check the like main page, we use maps here. Use map, yeah. So it does come with the set query mutation, so we can just use that same thing. And again, we don't need to include all of the use map ID because use map will automatically look for that. Let me show you the hook actually. Use map. So use map will automatically look for use map ID, which again is you looking for that query parameter, which in this case will be the number for the ID for the application for the submission, and it'll then pass that to the use query, unless you specify an ID specifically on the use map hook. Then we'll just ignore the ID from the query. Whether or not that's useful, I have no idea. I have not gotten to use it yet, but it's there, and I thought that was pretty smart. You could make the argument that it's too smart for its own good, but it saves me from calling two hooks when I can just call one hook and it does everything for me. So let's do that. And we can get rid of the map ID because we don't need to call that like that because we have that available on map. So map.id, same thing. And of course we need to import the hook. We'll get rid of you. So initial value is here. So that's gonna complain because we don't use this screenshot URL 1, URL 2, URL 3, because obviously that doesn't scale. So we just actually pass it to screenshot URLs. As you can see, I'm doing here anyway. The reason why I'm doing so is because I never got around to updating my... Oh, I'm not logged in. I never got around to updating the create pages. So when you create a new, let's say skin or map, it's the same in this case. Oh, for this one I did. For map, did I? No. Yeah, okay, so map doesn't work anyway. So clearly there's something wrong here. Oh, that's the wait, I'm an idiot. So I'm talking about the edit page here, and I'm showing the create page. What am I talking about? So the issue is on the create page, I did update the screenshots to take an array of screenshots. I believe the maximum I'm limiting it to is 12 screenshots because I feel like that's more than enough. and I don't want to pay for hosting too many people's images. And everything's broken now. Cool. But for the edit page, I don't believe I actually went through and updated those, which could explain the issue that we're seeing here. Map.id, map.id. And this entire thing here is not gonna work either, because we updated this mutation as well. So now we just pass everything. Okay. I have to say, I'm actually quite happy with the change I did here. With the mutations, it does save me a bit of typing, although it's a bit troublesome to have to go through and update. And yeah, it's still gonna complain because it doesn't match potentially the validation. It should match the validation actually. It might not match the resolver then, like the actual database. I'm not entirely sure. That's not too big of an issue. Why are you not passing though? Short description not incompatible, and that is potentially because string and null where it should be undefined. Okay, so we just need to pass that basically as data dot short description or undefined. Cannot find name of ID. Yes, I'm using SOD. So by default, when you create a Blitz application, it is being built using, like it recommends you a few form libraries to use. In my case, I'm using React form library, and then it comes with SOD for validation out of the box, and I've just stuck with that. And to be fair, I'm pretty happy with it. It's super good, and it does. I've only found one issue with SOD so far. Actually, I found that yesterday. I'm not sure if it's an issue, but it did cause me some grief. Let's see, where was that? That was in changelogs, I believe. Create changelogs. Nope. Create user. I don't remember where it was. Anyway, so the only issue I've had with SOD so far was it really bothers me. I can't remember where it was, in which file, because it was quite interesting. I think I can find it. Yeah, so for the form library, I'm using React form library. I think it's just called. Not forming, not form hooks. I think it's just form library, no? Let's check the package JSON. Final form, that's the one. Rec final form, sorry. Yeah, here you can see pretty much everything I'm using right now. So I have SOD and rec final form. That's all I'm doing for validation and forms. And then I have a few other things in here. Some of them I can probably get rid of because I'm not entirely sure I'm using them, at least not currently. Like query string, I think I used them at one point, but I'm not using them right now, so I could get rid of that. Tailwind CSS forms and aspect ratio, I'm not using, could get rid of. Slugify, I might use, I might not. Could get rid of it. You know, there's definitely cleanup to do in here. React drop zone, I know for a fact I'm not using because I couldn't get it to work very nicely with the way that my forms are built right now. So yeah, those are my dependencies. And then here's just some basic stuff. We talked about Tailwind earlier. I'm using Tailwind JIT. It's pretty nice. It updates quickly, which is super cool. But I'm not sure I want to use it for production quite yet. We did encounter some issues with it at work. And obviously it's very early on in development, so it might not be the best thing to do if you want to build something stable. But again, I'm just developing in my spare time here, so it's fine. And the fast update, it's beautiful. But yeah, React Final Form, that's the library I'm using together with Sod. And it's working again. Cool. If we go to, I believe, upload. So actually, one thing, actually I can show you a bit better if I go to create a new profile. If I go to sign up here. So I built some, as you can see here, some custom inputs or fields or whatever you want to call them for some of the various types. Yeah, Tailwind JIT is super cool. I built some custom fields for my like form library internally, again using Sod and React Final Form and all that. And I was able to, for the password field is probably the one you can see the best. I was able to pass the Sod validation directly to to the UI. So when you type, it'll actually start checking when you hit certain things. And in the end, like it's a super cool way of building inline validation. And I might do a video on that topic too, because I think that it's super cool. And as you can see, it doesn't complain until you stop typing or click away in this case. That's when it tells you, hey, this is wrong. But if you refresh again, yeah, of course, that issue. I need to fix that issue, obviously, because we don't want that. But as you start typing, if I close here, so of course, when I click here, it tells me it's invalid because I click outside the input that I had already activated. But like, which is a bad example, actually. I can't do that. God damn it. I need to fix some of these issues. So if I start typing, let's say a letter A, or D in this case, actually, it doesn't tell me that everything else is wrong. It only tells me what is correct. So if I type a number, it checks that. A special character, it checks that. But it doesn't tell me that this is wrong because I'm not filling that until I click away. But as soon as I hit it, it tells me it's correct. And then, of course, if I delete it, it'll tell me it's wrong. But I think that's much nicer rather than telling the user, hey, your entire thing is wrong before you've even finished typing. That's something that personally annoys me. Of course, it won't fix the issue where if you start typing and you realize you make a mistake, you hit delete, then it'll complain. But I think it's a nice experience. And again, I'm definitely going to be doing a more in-depth video on that. But yes, I can show you the implementation. Let's say label text field. So again, this component, it comes with Blitz by default. Most of it. I've just adapted it for my use case. So I've added, I have some extra stuff here just to cover the text area use case. I'm going to be moving that into its own file in the end. But yeah, so I added this tips. I don't know why I call them tips. I should call them validations. But, whatever. I call it tips. So it's just a field. Oh, messages are that delayed? I don't believe I've specified a delay, so unless it comes with one by default, it should be showing up as soon as possible. I'll be honest, I've not been streaming for the past 6 years. It's only very recently I picked it up again, so I'm using new software and everything has changed in the meantime, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So my settings could be wrong in that regard, but they should show up immediately. But just by the nature of streaming, there'll always be some sort of delay, sadly. It'll never be instant. At least not in the next 5 years. But anyway, back to this. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing an array of tips, as I call them, which the tip is taking a string, which is the text you see here, so it contains a number, for example. And the validation is then the sort validation that I'm using. So if you go to sign up form, where you can see this component, so let's use the password as an example. You can see here I'm passing an array of tips, and then the tip contains number, and then I'm passing the sort validation I have for password numbers. And then if we open that, we can see here it's just taking a regex. I could probably do like string number, and that would be the same thing. I'm not sure why I did the regex here, to be honest. But I think this is a quite easy way to build this. I would at some point potentially try and see if I can make this a bit nicer, in that with sort you can pass like a message if you fuck it up. If you make an error, it'll pass this message. And I wanted to trigger that in the UI here as well somehow. I haven't looked too far into this just yet, but it's something I'm planning on doing. Especially for, again, like I said, when I'm planning on doing the video, I want to try and see if I can cover that use case as well. But for this, I think it's super cool, and it's a very easy way to add validation. And again, it doesn't break whenever the user makes a mistake immediately. So your entire form doesn't just go red as soon as you start typing something, because obviously you're not done typing. Yeah, it's, to be fair, it's pretty basic. It's nothing that special, but hey, basic shit works. And it's a nicer user experience, so why not? But yeah, for more context on the like text field itself, again, it's using use field from final form. The field error I'm passing here, again, is just it normalizes the error message and just displays it. And the rest here is just like a bunch of logic for showing, like if it's a password field, you know, show the hide password thing. If it's text area, show a text area. Otherwise, it's just a regular input. Like, it's nothing amazing by any means, but it does seem to do the trick. I still need to update this actually, because I don't believe it. Yeah. I haven't actually tweaked this page to use the theme as we discussed earlier. I've only done that for the overview page and the submission pages themselves, so I still have a bunch of work to do with theming. But yeah, no, I think it's quite nice. It's cool. And I'm planning to. I need to tweak this loading stage as well. Don't want it to redo the entire UI. At one point, I'm gonna be not refactoring the entire thing, but I'm gonna be going over pretty much all the pages I have and reworking some of the logic, ensuring that I have nice user experience and that things work as I want, you know. A good example is the loading screen I have in place right now, which is just a completely empty UI with just a div that says loading. Like, it's not great. For that, currently all the pages are loaded using suspense. So I just have a fallback for loading everywhere, all over my entire application, which is not great. So I'm gonna be moving all of that to probably like get server-side props, load all the data there, and then serve it to the client. That should help get rid of some of the loading, unless it's dynamic data, of course. In that case, I do need to have some loading once in a while, but that's the plan for another stream. I'm gonna be moving all the pages to that. But yeah, no, the tips thing is it's cool. I think. And I think I missed a message. Yeah, so you made a message earlier as well saying that you hope it goes to prod soon. I hope so too. I have the domain ready already. I've not hooked everything up to it. I also have a S3 bucket where I'm loading or where I'm uploading files to. Currently, just the images. I need to hook up the functionality for uploading the files themselves for the submissions as well. Once I've done that and I've done some of this very boring and basic work, the plan is to release this as an early alpha version of the site. So it'll probably be locked behind a not a paywall, but behind a like invitation system, I think, at first, just to ensure that the people that do get into the site are aware that this is early, and at any time I might delete everything and reset the database because of migrations or whatever. Thank you. That's super kind of you. I'm happy you found it too. Like I said, I've not been streaming for the past 6 years. It's only recently I picked it back up because I think it's actually fun. And I'm on vacation this week, so I have the time to, really spend hours on the stream at a time while I'm working. So unless I'm encountering issues like we did earlier, then I think it's cool to do. Yeah, no, I do a bunch of cool shit actually. Not to toot my own horn. I'm so at work. My title is software engineer, but I primarily work with front end. But I do touch the entire full stack in my personal work because I'm a one-man team. So, yeah. So like, I'm not too into like a bunch of different languages. I'm primarily a React developer, but I do know like JavaScript, TypeScript, some Ruby. Not that I tried to use Ruby. I had to use Ruby at work last week and I hated it. But yeah, no, I touch a lot of different aspects in my work. I do all my own design primarily. Granted, I do look at a bunch of other things for inspiration because I'm not a designer by trade. So I'm not the best with like coming up with like perfect UIs by any means. But I do write the libraries myself, all the components myself, if possible. I try to reuse, or I try to get as little content from like packages as I can unless necessary or unless it saves me a bunch of time from writing very basic components. But I try to touch everything. I play with a bunch of technologies just because I'm very curious as a person. Like I said earlier, I don't have a GraphQL API here, but for my personal website, I do actually have a GraphQL API. I'm not using it for the website, funny enough, but I have it available so people can use it to query my data if they want to. So if you go to my website here, österkille.dk, you can see an example of a GraphQL query here. And if you copy it, it'll give you a link directly to that query on my GraphQL API, which is public. Let's prettify that. And there you go. Now you have a bunch of information about me, my jobs, and some of the projects I worked at doing those. So I need to update this website as well eventually. I'm currently working on a users page. The link is not working, but technically if you figure out the URL, which hint hint, it's users, you can still see the page. But I'm also working on project pages and some other pages for this, although that is being very slow. And that might end up using the GraphQL API just to make my life easier. Who knows? Yes, I do have a Discord. I will admit I'm not the most active Discord user. I mean, I have it, and I reply if people message me, but I'm not like super active on any platform there. I don't know what my ID is actually. So I know my username is not the same as on Twitch because I changed my Twitch username because my username is super old. And I'm just kind of stuck with it, but I'm slowly trying to change. Let me copy it here. So Discord username. I believe that should be it. Let me know if that works. So it gives me a different one when I copy it, but I think that's just because it's copying my... actually, no. No. Okay, my username is changed. I'm not sure if that will actually show me. Let me just copy again. Or if you search for that one. Either one should show my profile, I believe. But yeah, I have no idea. Again, I'm not too keen on Discord. I usually use Slack, primarily out of a need for work, but I just think Slack is not necessarily better, but I do like the fact that they have threads on like Discord. Discord does have better tools when it comes to communication in that they have voice channels or something. Doesn't pop up for you. Like I'm clicking my username and it's copying it, and that's the one it shows. So I have no idea. You can send me your username and I can add you if you want. I think that would work because I don't have any other nice way of figuring out what my username is right now. I should probably again. So this is definitely stuff that I'm gonna be adding to my stream on my Twitch description, I think. Again, I'm not streamed in 6 years. I have no idea what actually is in my description right now. We can have a look. Let's just mute this quickly. Come on, mute. Yeah, okay, so my description is just empty. Ah, no, it's not. It's loading. What do I have? Okay, so I have some links here, but those are... Oof, those are old. Again, these are from when I streamed 6 years ago. So, again, the YouTube link, I believe, is correct. I think that should redirect. Yeah, so the YouTube link does redirect correctly. The Twitter one is correct. Google Plus, I don't use. Fuck that. This page, I think, should be broken too. It takes you to the YouTube description. Okay, so that works. And then, of course, my website works as well, but obviously the logo is not updated. Okay, cool, thanks. I'm gonna add you. I'll do that live. Blah, 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 add a friend. There you go, send friend request. Cool. But yeah, I'll be updating that tonight, for sure. It's something I completely forgot about, to be honest. I just hit stream and started. So, yeah, I'm not too organized of a person when it comes to this. I'll be honest. Okay, where were we? Create game model. That is updated now. We were working on the edit page for the map ID. So this was the issue. But yeah, no, for sure, Discord is amazing for communities. Blitz, which again is the framework I'm using here, does have a very active and very cool Discord community, I might add. So if you're into full stack application using Next.js, I would definitely recommend checking out Blitz and the Discord for that. So I believe if you go to blitzjs.com, they have a link on there for the Discord in the header, which I would recommend checking out for sure. So yeah. So I'm curious, by the way, Grali, and please let me know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. What do you do? Are you a software engineer yourself, or what's your deal? I'm curious now. Subcategory as well. Okay, why can't I figure out any of them now? Because they're either null, which they shouldn't be. They should be undefined. That's the issue. So for that, I would need to probably update. No. Okay, so for this issue, I would need to just not pass them like this. Okay, let's just be lazy here. Just do like this. Ah, cool. I'm glad to hear I pronounced it correctly. That's from watching other streamers and YouTube videos and such. I've learned that pronouncing usernames especially is a bit tricky sometimes. So a self-taught web dev working with VCs and some companies in the UK. That's cool. I'm not gonna like ask which companies and such because that's up to you, of course. But no, that's super cool. So you're from the UK, so you're 1 hour behind me. I'm personally from Denmark, but I live in Paris right now, which is where I'm streaming from and working. So that's super cool. Nice to see you. Come on. Tags incompatible. Okay, so pretty much it's gonna be complaining about all my types here. Let's just do data tags, otherwise empty array. String. Right, because did we solve that on the edit page for skin? I think that is the more up-to-date one. It is not. Great then. New. It would be skin. Do we solve it here? Formatted tags. Yeah, so this function here I'll probably need to extract into a separate helper because we will be reusing this everywhere that I have tags, but for the time being I'm very lazy. Oh, I should probably just do like that. Formatted tags and save data. Data.text, there you go. Yeah, not so far at all. It's very close. I was actually looking for work in the UK before coming to Paris, but I ended up getting the offer at Algolia, which is the company I work at. As you can see on my Discord user handle as well. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't say no to that. I had been working with Algolia as a customer in some previous positions, in previous jobs. So it was a no-brainer to just take this. Downside to that being I now live in Paris and I do not speak French. Where had I moved to the UK, I speak English, so I could actually communicate with people. So that's the biggest issue I'm having. Building a full real-time framework based on Next.js API. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, Next.js inherently does not work with WebSockets, from my understanding. I believe it has to do with the way that the API routes are working, in that they're hosted on AWS Lambda, I believe, and WebSockets don't work with those. But there are workarounds. There's a couple of articles. I saw one recently that I was planning on looking into for another project. I think it was, yeah, Ably. It even auto-filled the URL for me here. So there's this service here where, again, they showcase building a real-time chat app with Next.js and Vercel using their WebSockets API thing. So of course, the downside to that, meaning you have to use their platform, which there might potentially be some costs with, but they showed working. There's some other articles for other ways of implementing real-time features, but I haven't looked too much into it at this point because I'm not at that stage yet where I need it. Oh, cool. Yeah. No, Algolia is awesome. Like any case where you need to search content, Algolia is it's a no-brainer. At least in my experience. To be fair, I've not used any others, but no, Algolia is super cool. As I'm not just saying that because I work there, but again because I used to use them as a client, I think they're definitely cool to work with. And it's only gotten better in the last 3 years I've worked there. So some cool stuff for sure. Right, so we have some different issues here. Submission is missing category and change logs. Okay, so the issue here is that we don't include certain things on the mutation, I believe. Maybe. No, it's from use map, I think, actually, because we're not using. We are full map. Huh. So the issue is the fact that the data we return, I guess, is not including those. So what we can do here, I guess, would be like that. Yeah, so now we get everything that we're missing directly from the map, and then we just override it by whatever we've updated, basically, and that fixes that issue. Oh, that's cool. I did not know that. So I'm guessing that could potentially mean that they're working on trying to find a solution for that within Vercel directly, and they just accidentally exposed that, maybe. That's super cool. That could be interesting to use. Yeah. Please, now that I have you added on Discord, if you like have some findings on that, definitely feel free to share that with me. I could be super interested in checking that out and seeing if there's something I can use there. Again, potentially not for this project, because inherently this is not really a collaborative thing, but maybe I'll add like a small scale chat system which could be using this. That could be super cool, actually. Yeah, that's dope. I'll need to have a sneak peek at that at some point. Right, handle length. Why are you complaining? And that's because we don't have that from here, but we have that from skins, I guess. Yeah. So we just need to. We just need to update it, actually. Because this validation is not correct anymore. Yeah, sure. That'll be super cool to have a look at. I'll be honest, I've been falling a bit behind on like new stuff in Next recently. Obviously I missed this one, primarily because it's not public, as you say. But I've also been swamped with work, so I haven't had a chance to look into like new stuff and such. Which is also why I'm like streaming myself. It's kind of to force myself to work dedicated on something for a couple of hours every now and then while I'm off. At least that's the plan. Category is not assignable to type number, and that's because we're not passing the category ID, we're just passing category. Framework you're building is using live queries, which by default, every change by the mutation will update the state throughout the app with 0. That's super cool. You can do some amazing stuff with that. No static objects anymore. That's so I mean, of course, depending on what you're building, that's super awesome. In my case, for this application, a lot of this is going to be static, not the homepage. That'll probably be dynamic because I don't want to rebuild every time something new is added. Actually, we do, because we can get it from the server. But the pages themselves here are fairly static. But I might see use cases on some places where dynamic or like semi real time, at least, data could be super useful. I read that wrong. I thought it said static objects, but you mean stale. But yeah. Yeah. No, for certain applications that is super powerful. Like at work we use our designers use Figma, and then the rest of the team uses Miro for like for some collaboration stuff. And like those obviously have to be fully real time, otherwise they lose their interactability, which is the entire selling point of those products. So it certainly makes sense to be able to do that in some cases, and I think the technology by itself is super cool, especially after Figma came out. Like we've really seen how powerful that can be, co-developing stuff together in real time. I myself built a like a page builder type deal, where you could assign blocks and edit a website through that. Not as a developer, I wouldn't use it. I would just write the code. But the marketing department we have at work would use this tool to create landing pages for outbound campaigns and such. And one issue we had with that was the fact that it was static. It was a one-person experience, and it caused some issues whenever two people were trying to update the same thing at the same time. You would just override each other's work all the time. I was looking into WebSockets for that in order to have some like multiplayer editing capabilities of collaborating on a page in real time, but didn't end up building that in the end due to time constraints and just not knowing how to actually approach the solution. But it's cool to see that things like that are getting a lot easier nowadays with frameworks like Next, providing potentially that kind of feature out of the box. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Again, if you have something at one point, I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. I don't think I have a use case for it in my current projects, but I'd be super curious to have a look and see if it's something I could make use of in the future. So yeah, that would be super dope. It sounds like a super cool project, to be honest. I love working on new things like that. Sadly, that's not always possible because you need to finish stuff you're working on too. But yeah, no, that's super cool. Nice. Let's see. I finished my coffee actually already. I was supposed to finish the stream when I finished my coffee, but this is super cool so far. So okay, in I think about 20 minutes I will have to cut the stream because I do need to go grocery shopping. So in Paris we have a lockdown currently, and that means grocery stores close early, and there's a curfew. So after a certain time we can't go out anymore. So I will need to do some shopping before that. But I will be back later tonight, either to stream or at the very least to record the theming video, and then dropping that on YouTube. So yeah, but either way, I mean, again, I'll be here for another 20 minutes, but either way, you're following me, which is cool. I have you on Discord now, so we can definitely talk more, either through Discord or whenever I'm streaming occasionally. So that's super cool. So yeah, of course, the goal here is to try and build a small following of people that would actually watch me build these products. That would be kind of cool. There's not much point in streaming if I'm the only one watching, or so to speak, or at the very least talking to myself. It feels a bit silly, especially last night when my microphone was off. I spoke to myself for 3 hours. That was kind of dumb. But yeah. Okay, we have one more issue here. I don't have a stream schedule, no. So as I've mentioned a few times, I'm technically on vacation this week, which is why I'm streaming during daytime hours. Otherwise, normally I would be at work right now and I wouldn't have time to stream. My plan is to potentially start streaming more regularly, at the very least during weekends, outside of work, or at the end of the day after work if I'm not too tired. But I don't have a regular schedule per se. It's more of a like random thing. Like I feel like streaming, so I'm just gonna do that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll become a daily part of my routine. Maybe every few days on a regular schedule. I don't know. We'll see. It also very much depends on whether or not people actually start watching regularly. Again, otherwise there's not much of a point to it. At that point, I might as well just record videos and post them on YouTube where people can watch whenever. And I'll have more engagement that way. But we'll see. We will see what ends up happening. What was I doing? I don't remember. Let's just rerun this. Just to see what it complains about, because I don't remember what I did. Come on. Okay, yeah, so we have this issue with the initial values here being wrong. And again, it's because of this screenshot URL 1, 2, 3 stuff we don't actually have anymore. Yeah, there you go. So if you go into new, I believe, let's just take skins because I know that one is updated. Yeah, we pass screenshots like that. So yeah, we just need to update that. Let's just get rid of view. And let's just copy what we did here. Don't have a render, just some screenshots. Actually, things are a bit different here because we're passing them from, yeah. Actually, that makes it easy. We can just get rid of this. Screenshot URLs, pass them to screenshot URLs. There you go. Meaning we actually don't need to, we just spread this entire thing. And of course the issue now being that this is not updated. Yeah, sure. Definitely go get some lunch. I'm getting hungry too, which is why I'm saying that I'll be ending the stream in 15 minutes now. Because I need to go grocery shopping before I can make a late lunch for myself. But yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for hanging out and chatting with me. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, feel free to drop me a comment on Discord if you have something to share about the project you're working on. I'd be super curious to take a look at how you're approaching that and what your findings are. And I'll be dropping a video on my YouTube channel as well about the theming, where I'll go in a few more details than I did this morning. So feel free to follow me on there too. Yeah, I'll hope to see you next time I'm streaming, whenever that might be. Who knows? So yeah, enjoy your lunch, and thank you for hanging out. It's been a pleasure, man. And sorry for maybe not the most exciting stream in terms of the work that I'm doing. Just a spring cleaning, you know. See you, man. Have a good one. Okay, so this is still complaining. Well, obviously this is wrong. So here we just need to do that. So images. We could just rename this screenshot URLs and just do that. And the same thing here. Yeah, so like I've mentioned previously as well, yesterday rather, and again where my microphone was muted so no one heard it, so I'm gonna repeat myself. I will be changing this part regarding the screenshots and the render as well. Right now, all I'm doing for all the images basically is saving the image URL to the exact image directly on the database, meaning here I'm actually loading big pictures. If I right click and say open image as, you can see it's quite large. It's way bigger than what we actually display. So what I'll be doing instead is I'm gonna do a database migration where I'll add a table for files, and I'll save them there instead, where I'll be able to save various like sizes and get the URLs from those. So the backend will do the resizing for everything we need. Technically, the Next.js image component does do some of that for us, but again, if we want to at some point offer a public API, we'll want to offer the images in various sizes from there as well. So might as well implement that. So that's another thing on my to-do list for when I eventually get around to it. At some point, I'll need to update my to-do board with some of all these tasks, so I don't forget, as usual. But who knows when that'll be. So you're complaining because it does not match, and you do not match because of the schema, which is not updated yet, but you will be right now. So we can get rid of all of these. Bang. Screenshots. There you go. And that breaks the initial values because what? Category is incompatible. And that's because, again, we don't actually pass the category, we just pass the category ID. So for that, category ID is map.category.id, right? No, okay, so that's incorrect. The issue is that it's saving category as just the ID. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, right now. Oh. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so we're passing category and it should be category ID. And the same goes for this one, honestly. Predefined, yeah. Let's get rid of you then, because we're already defining you for some reason. Category is category ID. Category ID. And let's just make sure it's named correctly. Category ID. Right, so you're still complaining, and no, it's because of tags. Right, so tags are a bit tricky because they're saved as, what are they saved as? They're saved as an array of strings on the database, I believe. Let's just do tags. Yeah, so an array of strings. But because the input is only reading the input as a single string, and I need to do this thing where I split it and then save it. Like it's a bit tricky in some cases. So I just need to have the same thing here, I guess. Tags, and instead of data tags, we do map tags. Right, and that's where my types are incorrect, actually. So that's going to be a whole different thing to fix, which I won't have time for now. So actually, I think with that, I will end it here because I won't have time to go through and fix my types for this right now. I'll be doing that at a later point. Again, potentially either tonight or tomorrow. Which might not make for the most interesting stream, unlike when I implement features, but we're getting there. We're slowly fixing all of these small